Ryan, midway through the regular season, how do you feel about your running game overall, and how is Bo Jackson feeling this week?
Good. I think he's ready to have a good week of practice. I feel like everything, we're always looking to get better. There's been some positive things across the board, and then some things we need to get better at. But I think the guys are playing physical, and I think that there's been some really positive things that we've done this year. But as we know, we want to perfect it. And I think once you get through halfway through the season, you recognize the things that your guys can do well. And I think we have to, continually work on the things that we think fit our guys the best.
Third row, Andy Anders.
Yeah, and obviously some of the lean on the run game that we asked you about a little bit after the game was with the short fields and wanting to finish off those drives. But when you're in a game where you're averaging less than 3 yards per carry, is there something about wanting to get the run game established now for when you need it down the stretch of the season, even if it's, going through some growing pains right now?
No, for sure. But I think when you look at, how many runs were inside the 10-yard line and, how many short yardage runs there were, I think overall efficiency was pretty good. But, when you get into those types of situations, if it's 3rd and 2 and you make 3, it's pretty good. So I think that's more important. Look at the efficiency. We always want to be explosive. And yes, it's very important that we continue to get better because we know we need the running game down the road.
Ryan, the punting situation so far this year, how do you feel like you guys have done in that area of the game? Have you considered getting Nick Clardy in there at all?
We've got him in there once before. We haven't punted a whole bunch. I think the sample size is probably a mixed bag right now. We need to continually look at it and evaluate it and make sure that we're doing what's best. But Joey will be our punter right now, and we work at it a lot. We'll work at it. It'll be the first thing we do on Tuesday. And I think we have the right guys in the game. We always take a look at that in terms of the protection and guys covering. So I think it's been solid, but I know we can do better.
Coach, traditionally a tough place to go, Madison, with the fan base and everything. They're struggling a bit. What jumps out when you look at this football team?
Well, they play hard and they're well coached. I think maybe the easy thing to do is to look at their record or look at maybe what happened last week and think that, otherwise, but that's not the case. And this is a team that, has good players and is playing very hard. So, we have to have a great week of practice, and you hear me say it all the time. We got to focus on us and our process, but knowing that. When you turn on the film, last year they're playing LSU, this year they're playing Alabama. They're playing, really good teams, and they've been right there with a bunch of them. So on the road, difficult environment, another big challenge for us. And I think it's important for us to recognize that this will be our 3rd game on the road in 4 games. Like, this is a big. Focus for us, this 4-week window, and we want to make sure we finish this thing strong, because I felt like going in, we'd have an idea of what type of team we had, and knowing that going to Camp Randall is a huge challenge. So we got to go in and play our best football. We want to continually build, and so we need all hands on board.
Right, when you had a chance to look at the film for Devin, how did that go on second look, and if Lorenzo were to miss any more time, would that still be the approach you guys would want to take?
Yeah, I thought, Jermaine, first off, did a great job inside, created 2 turnovers. Devin graded out well. Certainly it wasn't perfect. There was things he could do better, but, for a young player to play with that type of confidence in that environment was a great sign. Early on, made a nice play on a PBU, and then continued to compete the entire game. So we do need to continue to build depth. There's other guys in that room that need to continually step up. They're working hard on special teams to find their chance to get on the field. But yeah, we'll see how Lorenzo feels this week. But I feel like we have at least created a little bit of flexibility and depth right there.
I remember last year you guys talked about how the length of the season sort of influenced the way you guys were pushing tempo and sort of trying to reduce the wear and tear. This year again, you're kind of toward the bottom of the FBS and plays per game, plays per second, a lot of those stats. How do you balance that long-term equation with what you're trying to do kind of week to week, and what factors that weighing in?
Yeah, I mean, the first goal is to win, and when you look at it from that point of view, you do everything you can to win that game. But then you take a step back and figure what gives us the best chance to reach our goals, and that's the way we look at it. And you know, the idea of quote unquote style points, I guess, was probably a little bit more important, you know, before the 12-team playoff. Right now, it's about winning games, and that's what our focus has to be. Now, you know, there's certain things that we're going to need to continue to win games that we have to continually make sure that we're focused on, and recognize, and identify and address. So, you know, those are things that on Sundays we come in and figure out what went well, what we need to get better at, and then being able to adapt in game based on what's going on. But when you go on the road and you can take care of the ball and win the turnover battle 3-0, you know, you have to give yourself a great chance to win. And so, you know, that was the story of that game, in my opinion. But there's going to be other games, and we have to be able to adapt with those games based on what's going on, and that's our job, to be prepared for those.
Fifth row center, Timothy Robinson.
I know a few years ago when you were trying to revamp the defense, the secondary was a big part of that. And I think you've been one of the best pass defenses the last 3 years, but it seems like you had Jordan Hancock, Lorenzo, Jermaine, now you talk about that versatility and that depth. When you were trying to revamp that and you were talking about kind of the staff, was that versatility of like one of those things you were like, we need this to turn this around?
I think it's been more of the conversation recently than maybe even back then. I think it's always good to have guys that can do multiple things, but as we sort of transitioned into the 3 safety system where we have 5 DBs on the field the majority of the time, that was important. But now more than ever, with the way things are in roster building, I think versatility is critical. And so each year it seems to be more and more of a point of focus for us.
Second row on the aisle, Jeremy Birmingham.
I know the NCAA approved the new transfer portal window. I know that you were not, I assume you were not a fan of it based on the last time you talked about it in here, but can you dive into why that 2-week window, January 2nd through the 16th, is bad for everyone? I mean, not just the teams that are thinking they're going to be in the playoff or pushing for the playoff, but what are the unique challenges that adds?
Well, I don't think it's bad for everybody. I think it's actually good for a lot of teams, but the teams that are making it late into the playoffs are really up against the 8 ball, because not only are they forced to make decisions while they're still playing, and a lot of them school have started already by the time their season's over, but once the season is over, there's a 5-week or 5-day window where the transfer portal is open, and then there's no opportunity to replace those guys for the teams who are in that situation. So I'm not sure how they expect the teams who are in that situation to replace the players that are leaving in that moment. There's no more chance. So I've brought this up several times. Apparently it's gone on deaf ears, but you know, we obviously want to be in that situation, but whoever it is probably going to wake up and say, wait a minute, this isn't right. I have, you know, 5 or 6 guys that I need to replace on my roster, and I can't now. So at that point, maybe somebody will listen. But as of now, they decided to make the rule, and we all have to deal with it. So, you know, nobody cares, so move on. That's the way it goes, and that's just the way we'll look at it. So we'll get our plan together and go from there.
Front row center, Bill Rabinowitz.
Bigger picture question. James Franklin got fired this week. Luke Pickles on the hot seat. Things are so temporary and precarious these days. How much have you taken? I'm sure you've taken note of it. What's it like to be a coach knowing that things could go south quickly and everything changes? And how much pressure does that put on you internally? What's it like?
Well, I think the first thing is, you know, we, when you come in the building every day, you have to identify, you know, what your focus is and what your goal is. And, you know, our focus is on these young men and making them better. And winning allows us an opportunity to continue to do that. And this is the most competitive environment there is in the world, and it's getting more and more competitive every day, as we know. And this is what you signed up for. I mean, you know, we're in this environment because we chose to be, and it's ultra competitive. And so you got to bring it every day, and you surround yourself with great people, and you attack every day the best way you can, and that's it. And you can't worry about what happened yesterday. You can't worry about what's going on tomorrow. You just maximize the day, and then you push forward and try to surround yourself with great people. And when the moments are great, you enjoy them. When the moments aren't, you hang in there and you push through, and you figure out a plan moving forward, and then you go from there. And that's it. And I think when you're in the season, you're kind of in the ocean. You're kind of getting banged around a little bit, and you don't really see any land anywhere near, but that's okay. You just keep rowing and keep moving forward. So that's it. And we got another big challenge this week because everybody we play against wants to win. They have good players. They have good coaches, and it's extremely competitive.
Third row on the aisle, Dylan Davis.
Right, Illinois on Saturday was making obviously a very concerted effort to slow the game up with their substitutions. You weren't happy about it. Several points throughout that game. What was your conversation like with the officials? Did they acknowledge that they thought that maybe that was happening? And I guess how can you circumvent that as an officiating standpoint?
Yeah, probably it's a no-win situation for me to even comment it right now. So I'm not going to get into the conversation that I was having on the field, and hopefully it's something that gets addressed here soon. But if it doesn't, then we got to get the subs in earlier, and that's just the way it is. So we got to deal with it.
Third row middle, Stephen Means.
Obviously, you focused more on situations this year because of the less plays, less time, less possessions and whatnot. You are also trying to play 3 running backs right now with James, CJ, and Bo. And obviously last year, it worked last year playing multiple running backs, getting those guys to the finish line. But in specific situations, could you just kind of break down what each of those running backs gives to you that would make them right for, I don't know, say a 3rd and 1 situation versus a 2nd and 2? They're trying to figure out which running back is best for those specific situations.
Well, I think we all want them to have versatility, because if you're just putting people in to do specific jobs, then you know what happens, right? The defense says, okay, he's only doing this. So we don't want to do that at any position. And so we want them to be able to do all things. We want them to be able to run. We want them to be able to run upfield, short yardage, red zone, protect, run routes, because once you become a one-trick pony, okay, when he's in the game, it's pass. When he's in the game, it's run. It's between the tackles. It's perimeter. It's those types of things. And so certainly, you can look at each guy and probably recognize their strengths and weaknesses, but we're always trying to, put them in a position to, maximize their strengths, but we also got to build their weaknesses up and limitations so that they can get to that point. And I think when you look last year at our, Quinshawn and Travion, I mean, they had deficiencies that by the end of the season, I felt like you could put both of them in the game and you didn't know what you were getting. And that's the goal with our running backs now. And again, all built differently, but we're looking to get that, versatility across the board so we don't give away anything.
Right next door, Stephon Presley.
I wanted to follow up on Austin's questions earlier, just about Devin and Jermaine.
Yep.
Even regardless of Lorenzo's status, was there part of the way Jermaine played that intrigues you about playing him inside a bit more, kind of getting him closer to the line of scrimmage with the ball and having him wreak havoc the way he did against Illinois?
Well, when you make plays like that, you certainly draw attention and give the coaches different ideas to use you and utilize you. But Jermaine's very competitive, and he's a huge part of our defense. And we'll keep trying to figure out ways, whether it's situationally or even in 1st and 2nd down, to utilize those strengths. Because when you can play inside and outside and blitz, that's a strength, and that's versatility. That's why we can do so many things with Caleb. We can do so many things with Sonny. Arvell in different ways, and Jermaine's starting to show that he can do multiple things. So again, we give our defensive staff a little bit of time, and they'll come up with all kinds of different ways to utilize that. And that's something we try to really encourage. The more job descriptions you can do, the better we're going to be. So great to see Jermaine show up in big ways. Creating the turnover, in the slot on a PBU, and then coming off the edge for a sack fumble on a blitz. And we've worked hard on our blitzes to make sure that we're timing up, and the guys who are coming are skilled at blitzing. It's one thing just to blitz, it's another thing to actually use the techniques you need. And once you get there, create fumbles, because we've seen it before where guys have come, they're there, and didn't quite make the play. Not sure if maybe Jermaine had one early in the season where one of the guys spun out or whatever it is, but he's gotten better. I feel like we've gotten better at our blitzing, but it's something we're always working on.
Saw Josh Padilla again up on the offensive line. How's he doing through these last 2 games?
Yeah, good. He's graded out, did a nice job. I think he played 14 plays in the game, and so as he continues to grade the way he does, he's a center/guard for us. And when we can do that, again, it's a strength of ours. if we have depth, and he's giving us some of that. Even Ian Moore, who jumped in the game when Phil went down the other day. I feel like we do have some guys that are excited to get in the game. They've been working hard in practice, but it's good to see Josh getting some reps. He deserves it.
Yeah, you touched on it briefly, Ryan, but when you have 3 road games in 4 weeks like this in the conference, what are some of the off-the-field things that make it difficult to have a stretch like that, and what are some of the things you can benefit from it on the field?
Yeah, I don't know if it's difficult as it is. It's just it's a challenge for us. It's exciting. I think there's a lot of positives when you go on the road. I think our guys enjoy being on the road. A little less distractions. Everybody kind of together, hunkered together, kind of a bonding opportunity at the hotel. When you go into the stadium, there's certainly the scarlet and gray up there and the Buckeyes who travel, but you kind of feel like you're on your own, and that you kind of gain your identity when you're on your own, just like in life. You go to college, you gain your identity. You go off on a road, and you go to Washington, you go to Illinois, and now we're going to Wisconsin. You gain an identity, and I think it's exciting. I think there's a part of that is even, you learn more about your team when you go on the road. So I don't think it's difficult. I just think it's a challenge. It's different. It's exciting, and we're excited to have another great environment on Saturday at 3:30, and another opportunity for our guys to grow and be in these type of environments and learn. Because as much as we have grown in the first 6 games, we still have a lot to work on, and these type of environments are great to get us stronger.
Fourth row middle, Spencer Holbrook.
Yeah, I think Bo and CJ's longest runs each on Saturday came when you guys were in 11 personnel. And I'm just curious, do you think you're getting what you want out of 12 personnel right now in the run game?
Yeah, I think so. It's a different. The surfaces are different. When you're in the game with 1 tight end, 2 tight ends, and 3 tight ends, it all brings different things to the table. And then you look at the whole on. When you give something, you get something. When you put 12 in the game, they have to make a decision. Do they go to base or do they go to nickel? And then from there, you kind of build and you go and you try to identify what their plan is. And when you have these multiple groupings in the game, you have to have balance, but also you have to look at it like not just the running game, but like what does the passing game look like? Does that maybe open some things up in different areas? Like we have to decide all of those things. And when you have tight ends who can run routes, and when you have receivers that'll block, then it can kind of get gray for them. Is it 11 light? Is it 11 big? Is it, all these different things? And so that's where I think now that we have 6 games of information, we're starting to really identify what our guys do well, and we need to keep focusing on those types of things, putting our guys in a situation to be successful, so that when it all comes down to the end of the season, we're putting guys in the best position to be successful. There's certain things that guys have shown they can do. There's certain things that we've seen that guys maybe can't do, and that we got to stop forcing it. Other things guys got to step up and show us that they can't do. So it's this back and forth, but that's the journey of a team. That's the growth of a team that we're working towards. And as long as we keep having great weeks of practice, then that'll give us the chance to keep getting better.
Fourth row on the aisle, Andrew Gillis.
Brian, when you look at in-season recruiting the last 5 or so years with the changes of NIL, how has that changed things for your staff, for guys that you have in your current crop for the next cycle, or guys that maybe become available that you maybe didn't see coming in?
Yeah, all over it. We have a bye week next week. It'll be a busy week in recruiting. It's starting to get down to that point. I think we're going to have a real busy next couple months. But we're evaluating really heavy right now this class and how things are going. The majority of their seasons are kind of on film now, so it gives us a great chance to identify who we feel like is playing at a high level and who we really want to target. Certainly we have our commits and they're doing great, but there's also a bunch of pieces of the puzzle that we're working towards to get onto the team, and then we have to look at retention and then the transfer portal. And so all those things are coming real fast. So it's something we work every day on. We make calls on Monday nights. We meet on Thursday. We make calls on Wednesday nights. The coaches are making calls every single day, but we try to do them as a group, and then meet on it on Thursday. Go through everybody on the board, and then obviously on bye weeks we're on the road trying to see in person how things are going, get our eyes on the situation, get ourselves in the school, get ourselves at games, all of those things to help with the evaluation, because I think now more than ever evaluations are critical. Like more than ever. It was important before, but if you brought somebody on your team in the past and maybe it didn't quite work, they moved on. Well, now it's going to cost you a lot of money if you make a mistake. That's just the truth of it all. So I think evaluations are as important now as they've ever been. So we got to do a great job.
Front row center, Adam Jardy.
Ryan, you touched on this a little bit, but as far as Bill's question about like just coaching and all those pressures, like, did you have a reaction finding out that James Franklin was fired mid-season like that?
Well, yeah. To be honest, yeah. James. Anytime you're somewhere for as long as he has, he did a lot of great things, and we had a lot of great games against each other. So, yeah, you take a chance to reflect on it all, but he's going to land on his feet, and he's a really good coach. But then you got to get back to work, and so yeah, that's the world we live in, and yeah, it's something that I think for all of us, we just need to make sure that we focus on what matters to us, and what's at hand. And I said it before, like whether it's the negative things or the positive things or things like that, those are all kind of noise out there that we have to just stay focused on. And there's a lot that comes at you, whether you're at a player or as a coach, and our ability to focus and concentrate on what's important is what's critical, and that's what we got to do.
Throw center, Patrick Murphy.
Ryan, we talked a lot about the interior defensive line depth in the preseason. On Saturday, you guys rotated some guys in there. You've been doing that. But Tywone, as he's stepped up, what has allowed him, where has he gotten better? What has allowed him to sort of take on that role and be more productive?
Yeah, I think his confidence is as high as it's ever been. He had a couple really great plays, great effort plays, where he came back on a screen and had a 2 or 3 plays, and that's an effort. That's an effort play. I think his confidence has grown. I think he's learned to play with his hands better. I think he was a baseball player and a football player, and then once he went all into football, it still took a little bit of time. But he's thriving right now in this defense. You're seeing a bounce in his step, and he's a big part of what we're doing in our future here. So good to see him really step up, and we need to continue to see that. I mean, he's got to keep getting better each week, which he's done. But doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen, and we need that, because when he's in there with K-Mac and the guys and we're all together, you can see that they're strong inside, and on defense we got to be built from the inside out.
Second row center, Doug Lambrese.
Ryan, when you watch your team and then look at it statistically, for instance, on offense, you guys don't have a ton of explosive plays, but on defense, you don't give up any explosive plays. And then on offense, you're efficient and successful, you're good on third down, and on defense, your defense is second in the country in stopping people on third down. So it feels like offensively you feel good about, we can be efficient, move the ball down the field, and we're going to challenge opposing offenses to do the same. And can you do that? Is that connected on purpose? Is that coincidental? That's how it played out that way? Because it seems like it's kind of two sides of the same coin.
Well, I think you have to look at how other teams are playing us as well. So I think that goes hand in hand. So to answer your question, yes, but also, if a team is going to start playing more man and putting a single safety up there, and challenging us more, you probably would see more explosive plays. If a team is going to say, listen, we're going to, I've heard coaches say in their press conference, we're going to keep it all in front and make you take the short stuff and work the ball all the way down the field. And if that's their plan, that's their plan, and we have to be willing to do that and not let our pride and ego get in the way. And that's why I keep going back to the selfishness. I mean, it's very easy because of how some teams will play us to say, I'm not getting enough touches, I'm not getting enough explosive plays, those types of things. Minnesota challenged us some more, and we were able to create some explosive plays in that game. Now the question is, when we do get those defenses, are we able to build explosive plays into it? That's where the challenge is, and so we'll always work to do that. And every play can go for an explosive. So that's what I try to tell the guys all the time. If we just do a little better job blocking, running, making guys miss, blocking on the perimeter, spacing out the route better, deliver the ball a little bit better, we can always still create explosive plays. But I think to answer your question, I think it's yes, how we put together complementary game plans is important, but also we have to recognize how teams are playing us, and then we have to be able to adapt. But there's no question we always are looking to be explosive and want to be efficient.
Defensively, you're glad you guys are limiting explosives on the other side.
Of course. Yeah, one of the things that we do look at, so we'll come in here on Sundays, we go through all the situations. One of them is explosive plays, because when you look at the numbers on who wins the explosive play battle in each game, that the percentages are very significant. You add that with turnovers, and then it really becomes significant. So, but there's give and take to all of those things. And so we can't, it's not just one thing, as you know, but every little bit helps. And so I think the guys understand that. On Tuesday practice, we focus on 4 things. The first down battle, which is 4 yards on both sides of the ball. The rushing yards, we got to win the rushing game. Turnovers, and then X plays. And that's a Tuesday. So those guys can all tell you that when we get out there and practice today. And that's not going to change. Call them Bloody Tuesdays around here, so it's about to get cranked up here in about 2 hours.
Right behind him, Tony Curtin.
Ryan, I'm not sure how much you're involving yourself in this, the $2.4 billion private equity deal for the Big Ten. If that goes through, it looks like maybe, say, $190 million for Ohio State right away. I don't know if head coaches have Amazon wish lists, but for the football program, how would you like to
Yeah, Ross said we can use that for all the next class, the whole thing. We're good. So I was really excited when he told me that. I said, well, we're going to put a good class together.
How often would you like to see that used?
Yeah, that's up to Ross. He's been great, and every decision that's made is made kind of like the way we are. We have a short-term focus, but more importantly, we have a long-term focus. And at Ohio State, this is something that has to be stable. We always have to make sure that we're making great decisions for the future as well as right now. We know we have to win right now. Got to win this game right here. That's where the focus is. But we also have to look ahead because we know what the expectation is in the long term. So, he's been great about communicating to me what's going on, and always work to give us everything we need. But at the same time, he's going to make what's the decision that's best for the athletic department and the university. And so, I don't think those final decisions have been made, but I know he's right in the middle of it. So is President Carter, and their hard work is much appreciated.
Got time for 2 more with Steve Novak.
Yeah, Coach, you were asked about throwing deep after the game. You did throw deep, and it appeared you completed it to Jeremiah Smith, and then he's laying on his back out of bounds, and the ball gets knocked away. I don't know if this is a rule issue or an interpretation issue, but is that too stringent of a standard when he's got 2 feet down in bounds and complete control of the ball, and then a second later, or second half later, something happens? Did the Big Ten clarify that at all for you?
Well, just, some of those decisions, I think we all could agree could be making an argument either way. And, so we do everything we can to try to get those calls. Some go your way, some don't. But that's why I've just had the mentality, leave no doubt. Let's not leave it up to one call. Let's not leave it up to somebody saying either it is or it isn't. And so, nobody can get more frustrated than I can. But at the end of the day, when those situations, they'll just say, well, we're not going to get that call, and so we have to figure out a way to win without it. And that's it, because it doesn't do us any good to, complain about it or anything like that, other than just to make sure that, the league knows that, we're watching, and that, we expect to be, the refs to be fair, and that's it. So as long as that's the case, then we're good, and we're just going to focus on us.
Hey, real quick, Portal, where does this January window leave a kid like Atkinson, who went through spring football at North Carolina, decides that's not for me and wants out? Unless he's a graduate, is he stuck at North Carolina, or what's the story on that?
Yeah, I mean,
can they enforce that? That doesn't seem to me like that would hold up.
Right. I think there's still a lot to be worked through, for sure. Yeah. It's something that I know the decision's been made, but like anything else, there's going to be a ripple effect and unintended consequences that we're all going to have to work through. And but that's something we're used to. So we just got to keep pushing forward. That's it.
Last question, Tim.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Compound question. Number one, or first part of it, what would be the ideal time for a transfer portal now that you've studied things, et cetera, or do you have that in mind? And number two, last week you emphasized, hey, this defense is playing really well, but some turnovers, forces of turnovers really help, and boom, you got it. What are you emphasizing this week?
Well, it's everything. Whether it's special teams, punt return, kickoff return. I thought we had a nice kickoff return, got us up to the 35-yard line. It's like you just keep swinging and fighting and cracking at the rock, and eventually it will crack. Or swinging at the rock, and eventually it'll crack. And that's it in all areas. So there's some things that we've seen that we have to continue to improve on. We talked last week. We hadn't got a bunch of turnovers, but we focused on it. We emphasized it, and all of a sudden it popped up. So that's got to be us moving forward. But there's a lot of other areas, as you know what they are. I won't get into them right now, but that's it, and that's the game. So, and again, that's the only thing we can do is get back to work. In terms of the portal, yeah, I just felt like it needed to be after the season was over, wherever that is. And there's great conversation in the Big Ten head coaches about some teams are on quarters, some teams are on semesters, some schools graduate sooner than others, and so there was a lot of great discussion on where that window should be, a lot of give and take. But that was the big thing for me, is that the season has to be over, and then at least we can make decisions from there. Again, I won't get into all the details now. We got to worry about Wisconsin, and so maybe there's this conversation for another day. But I do have pretty strong feelings about it. Yeah, thanks. Yep.